I was thinking earlier today about like, what if we lived in like an alternate reality where Billy Mays hadn't died, right? And like he was the one that like went into the White House today to try to like encourage the president to like invoke martial law and the Insurrection Act. Like it's like this is the MyPillow Guy. This is an infomercial,
right? Yeah.
Star going into the White House in like the waning days of the Trump administration, trying to encourage him to like just full on like martial law and execute everybody.
It's so good too because like the photo that they took of him, whoever the photojournalist was that took of him, he looked like a White House staffer, you know what I'm saying? Like with a clipboard and walking in, behind the Rose Garden into like the West Wing or whatever. And like he looked like any of the other steely-eyed psychopaths that would have like otherwise been in any, Trump, Obama, or Bush White House or whatever. However, he's he sells pillows. He sells pillows.
I know, it's fucking bizarre. Because I was thinking like this might as well be Billy Mays, right? Or like any like QVC star. Like it's so bizarre. And it's so funny. I'm looking at it right now, like the picture, the zoomed in, and
it might as well be Billy Crystal,
right?
Like it's just it doesn't matter.
It's the guy from TV. It's if you watch Fox News, it's that guy you recognize from the commercials.
The slap chop Putsch.
Yeah. It's so, but like I'm looking at the document.
That's the name of the episode.
I'm looking at the document, and it's so hard to even make out like what is really being said here. But there's so many like funny little buzzwords that stand out, like immediately to save the Constitution, cyber something, CIA, China, Iran, trigger, domestic actors.
And you're gonna love my foreign policy.
Oh man,
they're not gonna. I have to imagine that they're probably not going to accomplish anything. I hope within the next 5 days or so, because we're recording this on the 15th of January, the fateful day.
No, I think they essentially already have established martial law in D.C. So yeah, I think everything.
Yeah, right. But it's going to be under the adults in the room.
I don't know, that shit like that is just as frightening to me as the fucking shit at the Capitol last week.
Yeah.
Like the response to it, which we always knew was going to be overblown and was probably ultimately going to, affect people on the left more than people on the right. All the protests, all the stuff against demonstrations and protesters, but also like the social media bans and stuff, right? Like all that kind of shit. We're the ones that are going to lose in the end.
Yeah. I mean, when inevitably when Biden, through his inaction, again, we have to criticize Biden more for the things that he does not do than for the things that he does do, right? Because, they're going to continue to squeeze us through austerity instead of, brutality like the Trump administration does. But, that logic, I anticipate will be used by the incoming Biden administration to say, like, well, all protests are bad.
Right.
And don't you remember when that protest thing happened that everyone was real scared about? Yeah. And don't you remember how scary it was? Now look at all these people, with their flags. And they're wearing red or black or whatever, and isn't that scary?
I mean, you already see, like, even just because there's the obvious, begging of comparison to, like, the protests and stuff that happened over the summer, related to what happened in Minneapolis and George Floyd and Black Lives Matter more broadly, right? Like, and then, what happened in D.C., there's already this kind of, like, meta-narrative frame about, like, both sides of the political spectrum expressing anger collectively and in the streets or whatever. And of course there is a comparison to draw there and to talk about like why is it this galvanizing moment where there does seem to be that kind of like whatever street level dissent occurring as a result of like a multitude of failures of the system in a number of different ways. But it also invites then like this false equivalency, which will then be used by the authorities to be like, like you were saying, protest in general is bad, right? Or dissent in general is bad. Like, obviously that was always, part of it. And I think, like, again, to echo what we were talking about on our last Patreon, too, it's, that still doesn't mean that, like, there isn't, like, a sincere danger or something to be afraid of I don't know. I think it's a hard world because we're still in that spiraling out of that like kind of semantic argument that's going on right now, and it seems like there's so much like internalized like anger of like people attacking each other about it and stuff, and I don't know. I oscillate between not wanting to contribute to it out of a sense of like anti-toxicity and solidarity, but also just like being really pissed off at people and wanting to also yell. So I understand the impulse to do it. But yeah, I mean, it certainly is going to be weird on the inauguration. Like something strange is going to happen, whether or not it's another demonstration of like, you know, that scale and with that ambition attached to it by the right. But even if not, like, you know, I mean, obviously Trump has already now said, as we predicted he would say, that he's not going to do the fucking inauguration. He's not going to go to Biden's inauguration.
It's so funny.
And so like the question is like, does he do something else? And I think that there's most likely not, but there is a chance he like hosts like a fucking like a PR stunt thing somewhere else, like on the other side of like the fucking DC or something. He just, you know, he just hosts an event that says the real inauguration or whatever, and sort of like we were joking about a few episodes back about like fucking Sealand and like the various fake governments in exile of these like delusional rich British guys like competing. He'll just claim that he's still president or something.
Oh, for sure.
He'll be like, I'm legally still the president.
Yeah.
Trump Tower Autonomous Zone.
yeah.
It's like not a crazy. It's gonna be like fucking Biff Tannen's palace or whatever. Like unreasonable to think that he's just gonna set up a perimeter between Fifth Avenue and Madison and just like this is. And he's just gonna, Proud Boys, if you're listening, you can stop standing back and you can start standing by my tower.
I mean, I do think that, and as Chris is, you've mentioned a couple of times, like thinking about like specifically like QAnon, but you know, more broadly, like this sort of insane Trump coalition, right? Like when January 20th comes and goes and, you know, not much happens, there isn't any ISIS-style execution of like all Democratic leaders and everyone in Hollywood or whatever. Like there will be, you know, some kind of backlash that will split into various fragments, and it's already starting to happen where like some people will be like, you know, dead enders of like, well, it did happen. Like they'll just still totally blindly believe that Trump is like the Messiah or whatever. Then there'll be like other people who are just walk away from it entirely and just sort of feel so jaded and humiliated and stupid and be like, well, now what am I supposed to do? I look like a fucking idiot, you know, and the spell will be broken. But there will also be people, and there'll be a strong overlap with like the groups that were more explicitly like white nationalist and Nazi variants and stuff, and who had already pre-existed Trump, for many of them, Trump already was like, did not fulfill whatever they thought or imagined he would, right? Like he didn't do the viciousness of like fucking ethnic cleansing to the degree that they wanted it to begin with. And so they'll just see him as like, you know, weak and they'll walk back from him personally, but they won't walk back from those politics, you know? And if anything, that might drive them even more extreme, you know, the idea like, okay, well now there is no real path to this via electoral methods or whatever, and so we have to, you know, start blowing up schools or something.
Right.
Well, when I was thinking the other day about like, just for example, someone like the QAnon shaman gets out of federal prison in a few years, like during the Biden administration, he can no longer own guns, or any of these guys, they get out of prison, they can't own guns anymore, they can't vote anymore. You know, there's probably a lot of guys that are just going to say "fuck it," right? Like I don't think we haven't heard the last of probably several of these people who are, you know, already probably going to prison over this. I don't know, man. I mean, the QAnon specifically, I think, is a really like what becomes of it. Like January 20th really is the day. Like if like they've got 5 days, they got 5 days to send the pedos to Gitmo. You know, if they don't do it, then you know what happens then, right? Then are these people going to internalize the evil one, or are they going to have to try even harder to defeat evil by whatever methods they think they need to?
It's gonna be like in that movie we watched about the Mark of the Beast. It's gonna be just a bunch of like QAnon people like hanging out outside like a Sbarro's, you know, wearing no mask, like sitting and just calmly looking around, being like, everybody else has just accepted this. You know, like what do we do?
It's also just been weird. I think I think the scary thing about it in the near term, and having now had a week for the kind of the media and people in charge and Democratic leaders and stuff to kind of see what's happened after the dust is settled and do a little bit of a post-mortem. I think what's really scary to me is that, you really saw the complete lack of awareness of QAnon as a concept in general at all for the kind of large scale people in power. I mean, you didn't hear it uttered at all from like Nancy Pelosi or Joe Biden. And maybe that's a good thing because they don't want to give it credence and they don't want to do whatever. But like, I think people feel as though, hey, we're going to arrest the people that showed up there and came in and, sat in Nancy Pelosi's desk. And once they're put away and in prison, then that'll be the end of it. And we can continue on. And, we're going to have a Biden presidency. We're going to have people protecting the Capitol. And this won't happen again. But I think, without that popular understanding of just how metastasized this grievance has become, you won't be able to combat it. Because you're going to be, clipping the buds and stuff instead of the stem. It's not going to be, it's not addressing the issues that precipitated it in the first place. So it's naive to think that just, having a bunch of troops, over a 2-week period or whatever to make sure that there's, the sovereignty of the state and the edifice that represents it is maintained. But like we're saying, there's no reason to believe that there isn't going to be, an increasing crescendo of attacks like this, especially now that they've been deplatformed and radicalized. There's all different, ways for this to splinter off. And because QAnon is such like a choose your own adventure sort of thing, there's a lot of different stochastic ways in which it can iterate, and that's spooky.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean, I think like in terms of, the way you were putting it in terms of, whatever, clipping buds, right? Or trying to address symptoms of something instead of what the root cause is. I mean, this might seem a little like contrite or whatever, but like, there's an obvious comparison you could draw between that and like the pandemic in general,
Of course.
It's like there's something sometimes like the time to really do something about it has kind of passed. And that's why, like, as well, with all the social media companies banning Trump and trying to purge their site of like QAnon accounts and extremists and stuff, like, fine. But like, that like the fucking Rubicon has been crossed. Like there's not, the cat's out of the bag. I don't know how many more metaphors I can think of. All right, the can of beans is spilled.
Yep.
The milk is spoiled. Like it's fucked. And I know that that isn't always the most like productive kind of intellectual approach, because then that can lead to just further stagnation of like, oh fuck, what do you do about it? And and I don't want to advocate for that kind of attitude, but like it especially like with the banning Trump, which again is funny and like and right to do, but it's
Correct.
still, it's like way too little too late in the sense of like trying to address this problem now. And obviously they're only hopping on that bandwagon, and by them I mean the whatever, the large tech companies and stuff. Like the only reason they're doing it is because they're safe to do it now, at least in the short term, because there's an almost certain guarantee that they're not going to face repercussions from like the next administration, and they can win some kind of weird brownie points and be like, see, look, we are dealing with the problem. But it's a really difficult thing. Like, what do you do with conspiracy and extremism in a nominally like fucking free and open system, and when it's proliferating, right? And I'm saying nominally very specifically because obviously it's not a free and open system in a lot of other ways. And there are strains of thought, and there are things that like very much are suppressed and can be and driven out of the public eye, and those do tend to be more like left-wing things, and they have been for the preceding few decades, and in part because of the neglect of like taking the right seriously, or like looking at these conspiracy things as like being serious. Like you were saying, like a lot of people aren't even like fucking aware of it, you know what I mean? Like, and so I don't know. It's spooky. Definitely. It's a little spooky.
Shane, I had your words in my head. I think it was yesterday or the day before.
Good.
When
I am every voice you have ever heard.
This is living in my head rent free is Shane. But when we mentioned on an episode a while ago about kind of the difference between leadership and just, people holding high office. And it's like, I think that your example was giving was like somebody like Bernie Sanders, who has kept the same positions, whether or not it was, the same kind of moral positions, whether or not it was politically expedient, but he's kept the same moral positions for decades.
Right.
And, in the same vein as the tech companies, taking the easy road out, too little too late, to deplatform Trump now, the city of New York also announced, or de Blasio announced this week, that it was cutting all financial ties with the Trump organization. I think one of the examples was they maintain, I don't know if I think it is the one like right at the end of the Whitestone Bridge, but Trump organization maintains a golf course in the Bronx.
Oh, sure.
And then a few other kind of like city services that they're, tangentially related to, but the city does pay them. And he was like, and de Blasio was like, we're cutting all ties to the Trump organization on account of the criminal act that he incited, at the Capitol last week and all that stuff. And to that, I was just like, oh, so, when there were dozens of families in 2017 that were disallowed from coming into Kennedy because of the Muslim ban that Trump did in one of his first acts, executive orders, in your own city, Muslim families affected by this, that didn't do it. That didn't allow you to, take a look and say, hey, maybe we shouldn't be putting money directly in this guy's pocket, or, family separation, or, any other, the litany of executive order fascistic acts that the Trump administration has done over the last 4 years. That wasn't enough for people in power that have their hands on the levers of power to be able to do something like that.
Right. I mean, the whole idea, I think why there's such a reaction against the kind of language that the liberal press and the political elite are using now about like the threat of Trump, why that rings hollow for people, and why I think it is appropriate to, and understandable that people feel like anger or like disillusionment with those people saying that, is because, as you've pointed out, they basically have done nothing of material value to resist that or stop it in any meaningful way throughout his initial fucking forays into politics throughout basically all of his presidency. And now at the 11th hour, it's like, everybody's coming out of the woodwork to say he's like a danger to democracy, as if like what happened at the Capitol building is like the worst thing that he's done. Just thinking in terms of other things, there's other things that Trump has his name on. There's like a huge bunch of land in Westchester that I like drove past it once. Not me myself, because I refuse to drive cars because they're death machines. But I was in a car with someone else who was driving, and I noticed there's like a state park in New York.
Are you sure it wasn't the New Jersey in the Palisades, like on what the hell is it called? Some sort of turnpike, like Palisades Turnpike that goes.
No,
up?
and I just looked it up to make sure it's in Westchester.
Because there's also a Donald Trump like park over in Jersey or something like that. But anyway, yeah, okay.
But so the one in Westchester, the reason why it has his name is because he bought it in the 90s to like turn into some casino development or whatever, and they like wouldn't let him. And so then what he did is he donated it to the state as like a giant tax write-off.
Oh, of course.
and so he donated it in 2006, and of course he was like, I hope this becomes the most beautiful park in this great country of national parks or whatever. And then like later they found there were all these like abandoned derelict buildings on the property that all had like asbestos in it.
Yes. Yes.
So
that's a deal, baby.
And it's still there when you drive past it. You know what I mean? Like there's so many weird things that have his name on it just because of his hubris as a businessman prior to becoming a politician, right? Like obviously, all of the buildings that are branded with him, and then like other weird things like just little schemes and things that have his name on them. But now, as like certainly there will be even more things that have his name on him now, just by the sheer merit of him having been president. I think I saw in like somewhere in like Missouri, they're like petitioning. Like the local government is petitioning to rename their like local road after Donald Trump or something, which is really funny.
In the same way that the majority of kind of, Confederate monuments and shit did not come about in the 19th century, but rather in the 20th century. It's like, this is just an homage. This is what we want to do. We're making a statement, a right-wing conservative statement to say like, hey, this is what we value, and we're going to rename our shit in homage to that, of course.
I just found there's a fantastic Wikipedia page that's just called List of Things Named After Donald Trump.
Oh Lord. Okay.
Here, I'll drop it. You guys could look at it, but there's
Please tell me that there's some like weird like nematode that has like a bad sort of like flagella on its head.
There is a species section.
No.
I like there's a people there's a people section, and it's under people it's just Donald Trump Jr. his firstborn child, and Donald Trump III, his eldest grandson. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But yeah, apparently, look, if you go to the streets, roads, and other, there's United States Square in honor of President Donald Trump, aka Donald Trump Square in Jerusalem, Israel.
Oh, isn't there a
Oh, of
He's
course
got,
I'm
like,
right here. Dude, I'm sorry. There is literally the exact same thing here. Here it is under species. Neopalpa donald trumpi, a species of micromoth with a distinctive yellowish white scales covering the head. Fucking nailed it, of course.
isn't there like an Israeli settlement in the Golan Heights named like Trump Heights or something?
Jesus
Yes,
Christ.
I
Trump
remember that.
Heights, Golan Heights, a planned Israeli settlement in the Israeli occupied territory. There's a couple. There's another one in Israel.
Oh,
There's
my
one in
God.
Albania, Donald J. Trump Boulevard in Albania. I wonder
tracks.
There's a
what's
Trump
going on
station, a
there.
proposed Trump station in Jerusalem.
There you go.
That'll be the
course,
station at the Western Wall, near the Western Wall.
The
Yes.
Donald Trump Western Wall Casino.
Yeah, the Trump Hotel and Casino, Jerusalem.
Oh my God.
This is, it's funny, and I clicked on the list of things named after George W. Bush, and it's literally 4 things. 2 of which are elementary schools. One is the fucking, the presidential library, and the one is Bush Shoes, a Croc-style shoe named after Bush by Taiwan residents.
We're gonna get the Donald Trump presidential library probably in the next few years. That'll be
Yeah, I mean, we'll
interesting.
probably-
He's gonna
They're
write
gonna
a
burn
book.
books.
He's gonna ghostwrite, but he's definitely gonna do like a book probably. Like
Of course he will.
there's a lot of post presidency shit we're gonna still get from him.
That's what Stephen Miller's job is going to be.
In the next 10 to 20 years, when the Third World War starts in earnest, it will begin with F-45s clipping the heads off of American pilots as they attempt to launch off of the Donald J. Trump aircraft carrier.
USS Donald J. Trump.
Yeah, and its first sortie against China or whatever.
Folks, the bilge is going to be lined with gold. Fuck.
Biden will christen the ship as a
He
sign
will.
of unity.
He will.
You got to do the voice like it's a good ship. She'll take you places.
Look at this thing behind us, folks. Look at this. It's got to be what? It's got to be a mile long. Got to be a mile long. Look at this. Look at this champagne. It's not even champagne. It's from California. We call it sparkling wine. I can't drink sparkling wine. I can't drink alcohol. I drink an O'Doul's once on my birthday every year. Doc says it's going to mess with my liver. Got enzyme problems. I'm surprised too. I mean, Trump, despite, the fact that blah, 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 his reputation and his organization stuff, he's not like an enterprising fellow. He's not strategic, but he is tactical. But if you were strategic, I mean, he would be spending this time, and I will obviously have to eat crow if it ends up that it does happen. But he should be, if he were smart, he should be trying to kind of harness this momentum and exactly that, create a shadow media and a bizarro media group that would be, he has the critical mass to actually create like an anti-Twitter or whatever.
Right? Yeah. He's got the name recognition for that as well.
He could do it.
Yeah.
But, I just think the best thing that we honestly have going for us is the fact that he is so fucking old.
Yeah, I don't know. So is Henry Kissinger.
Oh
you know?
my God.
So, and he's maybe even more evil. Definitely more evil.
Well, that's the thing, like, especially like we saw with Sheldon Adelson and his passing, in the last week. And it's like, again, Chris, I have your words ringing in my head, which is like,
Good.
He won.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But he won. He won. He was 87 years old. He was Trump's single largest individual campaign contributor. And, just a right-wing bastard all the way. And, he died doing what he loved, being decaying in front of everybody. what's there to say? He built his empire, he proselytized it, and he moved his agenda forward, and we are all worse off for it, and he's all the richer for it. It is not, it's not a victory by any means. It's just like, well, hopefully he's not going to do as much damage now that he's dead, and that's the best we can say about it. I guess just something I was ruminating on today too. I don't know. I just had this like weird thought when I was like looking at the calendar or something like that, and it said just 2021, and I was just like, it didn't even like really, I hadn't even like really wrapped my head around it or was able to appreciate it, just like how much in the quote future we're supposed to be right now. And, trying to say like, oh, flying cars and all that shit and technological advances, and we're supposed to be living like the Jetsons where, we have technology working for us, and, we're living much more of a life of leisure as we used to. But I was like, we're supposed to be having more flying cars, but like in reality, the only thing that's gotten vastly better as far as technology goes is like surveillance technology, just like things that are ostensibly used to make our lives worse. Especially, Shane, I know you'll appreciate this, but like, the Chambers Street station down in Lower Manhattan.
Intimately familiar.
It's so fuck. I mean, it is. Somebody posted this on Twitter, and I can't recall who. I wish I could, credit them for this. But the picture, I mean, if for anybody that's been to Chambers Street Station, it is like rust and like slag just falling down on the subway tile. It's totally decrepit. Tiles falling off. The place is like, it feels like, I'm dead serious, it feels like being inside of a cavern. Like there's stalactites and shit.
They tried to renovate it when I was in like high school, I remember, and they did some stuff to it and modernized a few things, switched out some of the turnstiles and retiled some of the areas or whatever, and then it just immediately fell to shit again. It's just so poorly maintained.
I'm looking at it now. I'm looking at pictures as you guys are describing it.
Whoever posted it on Twitter just showed, one of these walls that was completely fallen down and decrepit, and in front of the wall was this nice, bright, shiny new surveillance camera. And it's just like, the metaphor that it begs is like, as a society, we're willing to invest in things that are meant to, control us or keep us under a watchful eye, rather than to kind of facilitate a better life for ourselves with better transportation and, invest in those sorts of things. And as I kind of go around, I actually took a walk yesterday from like Lower Manhattan up to Astor Place, which is that's a pretty big hike. I mean, it's like 2 miles or something. And Manhattan looks fucking grim. A lot of stores are boarded up. A lot of stores, storefronts are like for lease and all that stuff. Kind of all these kind of staples that we would recognize as like New York institutions are continuing to close, and, rents, continue to be owed to landlords, that are with no way of paying them off and stuff like that. And I just remember I'm just like thinking about it, and I'm like, all like, it just feels, and again, I'm not learned about this, but like all the kind of like weird and bad imagery that we see about like the decline of the Soviet Union, of like, just things kind of falling apart. It just seems fucking weird to live through it.
Right.
And seeing all these things just fall apart around us. And with such rapidity, like was so fast.
Right.
Like it was like last year that we had like a lifestyle. We were going out and seeing people and going out to restaurants and like, participating in our local economy, as bad as it was in the sense that, there were large corporations kind of purchasing, and consolidating. Dwayne Reed was now part of Walgreens or whatever, like all these kind of the big fish eating up the little fish and all that stuff. But I don't like it. That's all I really wanted to say.
I mean, we talked about this when we did the Bloomberg episode, but one of the stupid things then was like, with the decaying subway system, is when they just like added like Wi-Fi and like those I mean, which again, internet access isn't necessarily a bad thing, but like they spent like millions on these like fucking touchscreen things to put into the subway stations that obviously don't fucking work right. like immediately broke because people are just touching them all the time. They never like like display the correct information. And, you know, when I was last living in New York, you know, now a few years ago, I guess, like most of the stations, except maybe the ones that are like in the high traffic, like tourist areas, most of the stations that have these things, they're just like fucking broken already. Like the screens are cracked, or like the, you know, whatever the plate, like the metal conductive plate motherboard thing that's behind it is just like fucked up in an area, or a bunch of them have like weird like splotches on the touch screen where you can't, you know, like when you crack your phone or whatever and it starts to spread across like a fungus or mold or whatever. It's just like nothing is all so it's like, why did you spend millions of dollars doing this when you could have, I don't know, like paid the railway workers more?
Yes.
Or just like paid to have more, like, I don't know, you know, custodial people to like clean the stations, or like retile one of the walls so that you don't see like the fucking like tombs of, you know, the gangs of New York people like poking out. Like it's yeah, I mean it's a totally, I mean that's like the weird thing, and I do think that speaks to like what you were just talking about, Dwight, in terms of like, you know, watching the decay happen. And there is obviously a comparison to be made between now and the sort of late Soviet period, like of just that kind of weird hyper normalization where obviously like nothing functions, everybody knows that the official system doesn't work at all, but we all like continue to like pretend to like go along with it. And the weird difference, or the sort of capitalist innovation to that, is like the, you know, the slapping on of like telecommunication technology as indication of like great utopian progress, where it's like, well, now we all have like miniature computers in our pockets, which of course is amazing and wondrous in a certain kind of way, but like, you know, we're all dying of the plague too, so it's not really like this one, you know, and like, you know, nobody can like get to work. Like none of the trains work, like all the shit is broken, like everybody's getting foreclosed on, you know, like there's not there's a sense, and we're gonna talk about this when we talk about Facebook later, a little sneak preview for next week's listeners,
a little appetizer.
But like there is this weird conflation that has been going on certainly through our lifetimes, you know, in the last 30 years or so, of like in the popular discourse of like technology meaning like telecommunications, right? And we all use it as a shorthand. I do this too. I'm not like condemning anyone for doing it, but when you say like when we say the big tech companies, we're talking about like software development, you know, and like Facebook or Twitter or like, you know, Google. And while there are some wondrous kind of things about that, like that's not necessarily like the idea that like we're just rapidly producing new and new technology. It's like, you know, there are some moments of great innovation, but then most of them are just, you know, there are these long valleys where it's just like, okay, well, everybody's on the same platform now, so innovation is like you can do fleets. Oh. You know, like that's not really like a fucking great advance in society, you know? And it shows that like, it also shows the kind of the limitations of the political horizon that our like culture has, right? Where it's like, we're, you know, you have like fucking Elon Musk saying like, we're gonna go to Mars and set up a feudal colony there where you could sell yourself into slavery. But at the same time, simultaneous to that, it's like, how dare you think we could have universal healthcare? Like going to space, going to deep space and setting up the fucking premise of Total Recall, just like an evil mining operation overheaded by an insane fascist that causes like oxygen deficiency, that causes telepathic mutants to start a revolution. Like that's gonna happen for sure. But like, I don't know, redistributing some of the money in the society, absolutely insane, like totally impossible, right?
I just figured that, like, you know, I mean, you know, we grew up in the late 80s and in the 90s and stuff.
I didn't grow up in the late 80s. Don't group me in.
Oh, that's right. Okay. All right. Well,
1990, baby.
the Bush years. Bush classic. It's just you kind of, we grew up with the idea that like, and I don't mean to like, you know, especially for our Zoomer folks who are like rolling their eyes to the back of their head now. I don't mean to, you know, instill too much millennial grievance, but like the idea is that things would get better. And like the idea was that like there would be advancement and your life would become easier and like you had things to look forward to. Whereas very much now, I think the general consensus is that you don't. You don't. And that's not like hyperbolic. It's just like people, like I am continually shocked when I like overhear conversations in workplace environments, not from people I know, but just like overhearing things. Like there was a guy, and trigger warning if this is content warning if this is something, a theme of self-harm, but so skip like 20 seconds. But he was just like, hey, how's the day going, Fred? And he was like, well, I'm glad that the windows are locked, so I don't jump out, is what he was saying. And I was just like, fuck, this guy looks like like a mid-level executive or something. Like it's not like he's foundering at the bottom of Maslow's hierarchy, and it's just this overarching sense that like life is extremely precarious. But as I was discussing with a family member earlier this week about, I was telling her about artisanal mining and Glencore, and and I was just like, oh, here, I was like, again, we have to do this a lot. Just enjoy your mind before I destroy it with the information that I'm about to tell you. And of course, I go explain, like, it's essentially the gig economy for rural Africa and mining corporations therein. But yeah, the point of it was that those things, these kind of like natural things that we feel like, the things that happen that we know are classified as bad on Earth, like things that exist right now: slavery, human trafficking, eco racism, with, communities that are plagued by, in the case of Glencore, waterfalls of sulfuric acid going through your town and shit like that. They don't happen on accident. They happen because they are benefiting someone else. Like the natural state of things isn't for just these like environmental disasters to occur. I think that there was like a huge opportunity that was lost in the, I guess, was it like 2010 Deepwater Horizon disaster in the Gulf?
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, to this day, and this, I still can't believe that they do this, but like the mascot for Dawn dish soap is a fucking little duckling. And the implication, what they're showing is like, oh, hey, when mankind completely, decimates its own environment, we're here and we can clean up the, the avian species that are just drowning in a petroleum, sludge. And that's their that's their advertising face. Are you fucking kidding me? Like and this is also what I said to this family member. I was just like, the scary shit that we reckon with actually isn't hidden at all. It's just like normalized or propagandized and shit like that.
Right. It's all on the surface. Yeah.
Yeah. The scary shit with like, the war on terror. It was like, everybody's like, oh, did you catch 24 last night? Like, are you like this? It's just normalized with this like weird propaganda. I don't think it doesn't necessarily happen through like some psyop or whatever, but it's just like, it's a way for society to cope with the horror that is existing.
You want to hear a really bleak, like late capitalist bit of entertainment I've been doing? Like a really dark, really just pit and shameful. I really struggled with even bringing it up to you guys, like, let alone on the show. Like, just even telling anybody else about this.
Hit us with it, man.
I like to play video games on the computer. Beep boops. I like to do that, especially as, there's fewer options of things to do outside. This is what I spend my kind of downtime, my relaxing time doing. And most of the games that I play are like, conquer, kill, death, poison, destroy, and I enjoy those quite a lot. And there was like one game that kept coming up on Steam, the game workshop platform thing, store. And I eventually, it kept popping up for the like last 2 years, and in the back of my mind, I had this just like an intense conflict every time I saw it. I was like, I don't know if I should get this, but I want it, but I also hate it immediately. And I finally was like, I have a couple of days left before my next semester starts in earnest, and it's going to be a really tough one, a lot of stuff. Let me get this game, because it also seems like really relaxing. And the game is called House Flipper.
No.
And so the premise of the game is that like you buy derelict, shitty, foreclosed on houses, and then you like make them nicer, and then you sell them for a profit, right? And And so like it's also sort of like a design. If you ever play like The Sims or something, it's like you design you like the rooms of a house, you paint the walls, you put down new floors, you get the furniture, all that kind of shit. And like the whole thing in the game is like, you're like you start off with like very little money, and then you have to do like little odd cleaning jobs to like get more money. Eventually you get enough money so you can like buy like a shitty house, and you have to like put all this work and stuff into it. And they have like in your little office there are these like capitalist motivational posters that are like work means victory, and like time to get up and grind. The gameplay itself is, it's like, it's got this like light kind of like, smooth jazz techno, like.
I'm watching the trailer for it right now. Actually.
And you just like, you just like slowly in first person, like paint walls and shit. And the reason why I wanted to get this game, and I had this conflict now for years, is because I realized many years ago, like, oh, I'll just never have a house.
Yeah, that's right.
Like, I'll just never own a house. And so, there's still that, like, kind of, whatever, that interest in like, oh, what if I did? That kind of, like, fantasy space. What if I did? What would I do with such a house? Where would I put all of the nice furniture in this house or whatever? And so I got it, and and it is like kind of relaxing, and it's kind of nice. It's a little like playful mind space to be like, oh, I can arrange things in the house. It's not like an amazing game or anything. It's just like, it's out of all the things I play or I spend my off time doing. It's either that or like read fucking Critique of Cynical Reason by Peter Sloterdijk. So like I need like a fucking break, okay? Before anybody gives me shit for playing this game, I need some me time. And so I'm like painting this, and if you like go into the reviews for the game, it's like a lot of other people say the same shit. They're like, I'm never gonna be able to own a house, so I like to like pretend and like sort of fantasize about what I would do, like how would I fix up my house if I had one.
Yes.
And it's like, and especially since it's not even just here's your house, like redesign it. It's specifically in the context of like flip it and make a profit, and then take that money and reinvest it and get another house. And then like even all the odd jobs you have to pick up are not usually from people who own the houses to live in them. Like there's all this like flavor text in the game, like when you accept a job, and it's all like landlords who are like, my horrible tenant like ruined my house and I need to like rent it out to a new tenant, so I need you to go in and like clean it up. And it's so there's so much like just hegemonic fucking propaganda just in that, just this like weird capitalist fucking thing. And again, the attraction to it is explicitly because it's the virtual fantasy of the middle class American dream that I literally cannot have, that I was sold to as a child, and now I feel resentful of for knowing I won't be able to have it. And so as a result, I get a simulacrum of it by fucking spending $20 or whatever on this fucking fantasy version. Because again, as a fantasy space, it's like, as media, what is it supposed to be in a video game? It's like, it's a sort of you want to play in a stand-in for something else. You want to go to fucking space, or for me, it's like I want to imagine I'm a ancient conqueror or whatever, right? But in this particular case, it's literally I want to imagine the fantasy that I might like own a 2-bedroom house, and even still, I have to buy the cheap toilet. I can't afford like the expensive toilet in the game. I still have to like budget crunch. The fantasy is, what if I had to budget crunch at Home Depot? That's what I'm playing out. Oh. And honestly, it's quite relaxing. It's just like whenever the reality of it comes back to me, I just feel like I'm in the snake pit in Northumbria. I just like a fucking just totally low. But besides that, it's very pleasant. It's got like nice music. You can like mow grass. I just unlock that. Jesus. You can like mow grass around the house.
You do chores at your own virtual house.
Yeah. You like clean up, and then you can can like earn perk points so you can like clean faster.
Oh my!
Like wipe the windows
honestly, I'm kind of sold on this. I'm just like watching the trailer as you describe it, and like, yeah, I want to play. I want to mess around with this. Yeah,
it's fun. We should do Eat the Rich live stream.
We should actually do Eat the Rich live stream of that.
Really low voice. Just like, all right, guys, I think for the second bedroom, we should go with forest mist. That's a nice neutral color.
Shane, did you? I don't remember seeing the WD-40 from the bag. Did you pick that up? Did you put it in the bag when we went to Home Depot?
Easy peasy. All I have to do is press tab. I got it open.
Press tab. Okay,
I got the store open. Yeah,
good.
let's get an extra can of that.
Hey, do you know if the lawnmower, if it's a hex wrench or if it was like metric or something? Because I need to like adjust the carburetor a little bit, and I don't even know. It's running a bit rich, and I think it just needs a little bit more air.
I'm watching gameplay right now, and there appears to be blood all over this house. Is there? Have you cleaned up large amounts of blood in this game?
I have not cleaned up any blood in the house yet. Maybe actually another like DLC that like came with it when I got it is they have an apocalypse version.
Oh boy.
Where you can like where you build like prepper bunkers in the underground house.
All right, now we're really getting somewhere now.
You can also buy like guns, like you can buy like AR-15s and put them on gun racks next to giant tubs of like grain and like powdered dry food.
Shane, when you said that this was going to be bleak and dark, I didn't realize you were going to fucking deliver this hard.
It's so I don't know, it's so soothing to me, and I do think it's like the it shows even in myself like the kind of the limited scope of fantasy, right? As things crumble, right? It's like the fantasy now is not and maybe that's also like a product of my own age or my own psychological disposition at this point or whatever. But it's not anything grand, it's not like this like huge thing, or at least not always. At some points it's really just the playful fantasy of like, what if I had a slightly bigger bedroom,
all right. I'll tell you something that was a kind of a bit of the kick in the groin this week to me as well. Was I saw a billboard somewhere with the Powerball, and it was like $600 million or something like that. And so I went through this whole thing. I was having let's just say a not great day. And I was going through this whole kind of like fantasy in my head of like, okay, let's say if I had $600 million, let's say, 50% to taxes. So let's call it like $300 million. Again, richer than God, right? I mean, that's just like an amount of wealth that you can't even possibly, understand. Even like, $10 million would be just, I wouldn't even know what to do. And then I started thinking about it, and I was just like, well, what literally would I want my day to look like? Like, let's say I bought my house, I bought a big townhouse or brownstone or something like that in a nice neighborhood that I wanted to be in. And then maybe, a house in the country or something so I can go run around and, push down old dead trees, which I like to do anyway. What would I do with my day? And I was like, well, I think it'd be nice to kind of like structure it so that I could move my body, work out in the morning and, maybe, fit in like maybe a lunchtime, 10-minute meditation or something like that. Just kind of thinking about what kind of things would I want for my life. And I was like, well, the house in the neighborhood is close to this nice walk, so it'd be nice to take like a Sunday, a sundown kind of walk every day and something like that. And, I'm kind of thinking about like, what are the kind of like big things that I want to do? And sure, there be some like hobby things that I would want to purchase, like I would love a 1950s Fender Stratocaster or something like that, or like a, recording studio for music. Like that would be fun for me to do. But I think what I realized, and this is also something that like, is occasionally utilized in psychology, which is like you quickly realize that the things that you want to do aren't necessarily things that necessitate that require a grandiose amount of wealth to do. Like taking a walk is free, working out in the morning is ostensibly something that you can do, and stuff like that. The fucking catch is we were talking about this earlier in this episode about like the psychic horror that we exist under is because we feel as though there's a precarity to our time and to our stations in life. There's a precarity to the, to even people that are living like, the guy that I was saying about, that was just like, everything sucks and whatever, even though he was living the kind of middle class, life that you were describing in your house flippers thing, like even though you're kind of walking through those motions of having that middle class lifestyle, and he might have a mortgage and all this stuff, and so there's a certain amount of stress that comes with that, but the precarity of it disallows you from being present and enjoying the thing that you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, even this was like, the other day when I was taking a walk up Manhattan and I was listening to music and I was like, I had headphones on and I was just like, let me enjoy this. And the thought, and tell me if this resonates with anybody, like the thought was, man, I wish I could do this. You know, just take a walk and listen to music, even though I'm doing that thing. There's you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm literally doing it.
Yeah.
But because the lack of presence, the ability to be present, and always either, you know, living in the future in anxiety, or, you know, living in the past in depression. I mean, this is I'm just being colloquial about it, but like the feeling is like, yes, I'm doing this, but it's only because I'm getting away with it right now. It's only because I'm getting away with it. But this is not something that I'm either entitled to or have the regular ability to do. It was just some sort of serendipity that allowed me to do that today. And that's the thing that I feel like, and especially this gets into, you know, the absolute shitheads that end up in our mentions. Like whenever we mention something about how Elon Musk is a piece of trash or something, they're like, well, you know, don't you have a phone? And, you're not, you know, eating out of, you know, a dead cow on the side of the road. Or, you know, it's like, it's just this, the point is, like, under our capitalism, it's not just like you're saying with like the software thing. It's not that we don't have the ability to do some of these things, but it's that our time is monetized and our time is incrementalized, like meaning like it's literally quantified. Like, why do we wear Fitbits? Like, well, how much walking were we able to do today? I need to do more walking, because if I don't do enough walking, then I'm gonna die because the fucking stress is too much for my heart and shit. Like, the apparatus has taken away our ability to even to be present and enjoy the things that we might be able to do, because the feeling is it's only because we're getting away with it this time.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Hit me with it.
Because you left one thing unresolved.
Okay.
Did you buy a fucking Powerball ticket or not?
No,
You're leaving money on the table. I can't believe.
I see that now.
I can't fucking believe that, dude.
I didn't buy it. I don't know if I ever bought one. I've
bought them.
I haven't bought. I like to gamble. I have not bought many lottery tickets. No.
Oh, dude.
I think I bought it. I think I bought one as like a family kind of gag or whatever, when it was like, wasn't it like 1.1 billion or something? And it was like a few years ago, and it was just like, well, you know, hey, this might be fun to become that, but, you know, inevitably, fuck it. No, it's just didn't buy it. Just have to work till I die. That's what I got. I have to work till I die, or I die if I don't work.
Right.
So it's either I die now because I stopped working and I go take a walk, or I die because I stopped walking. That's how that works.
Right before the holidays, I had like a fit of energy, and I was like, I'm gonna go buy some Scratchoffs. I haven't bought some in a long time, and I'm gonna go fucking buy some right now. And I went out, I found the closest place to me that sold them, and I guess in Pennsylvania they only sell them in the machines, like the vending machines. In New York, you can just get them from behind the counter at a lot of like delis and stuff. At least in New York City, you can
very social experience. Actually,
you can go and you know, they'll have like a, you know, a plastic thing with a whole bunch of them, and you point at the ones you want. But in Philly, at least the few locations that I've seen, and then the one where I actually got them, there was a machine. So I got a couple, right? I brought them back home. I gave some to Carrie, very benevolent of me, and we we scratched them off, and I hit on a couple of them. You know, not like,
wait, we did this too in New York.
Yeah.
We all got scratch tickets.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fun.
And so then I was like, you know, I want to go back and get some more, because I'd basically hit where I'd only kind of just lost a little bit of money, and so I was like, all right, I need to go back, get that money so I can, like, you know, reinvest. You know what I'm talking about? Like, you put that money right back into the fucking machine, dude. That's how it works.
Dividends, bro.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I went back twice in the next 2 days, and I was like super busy around that time because I was like finishing up a bunch of shit I had to do for school, and so I only had these like small little windows of time of like, okay, I can go take that 30-minute walk, go walk to the place and get the tickets and come back, right? Both times I went, there were like dudes like hovering at the machines, like machine hogging, and I realized, like, But because if you've ever been in a gambling scenario, whatever it is, there are always the people, not like myself, of course, because I'm fine and normal, but like truly degenerate gamblers, they'll just like fucking hang out for as long as they want to do their thing for, right? If you ever go into like a casino or something, there's always like regulars who are there who are like taking up most of the spots, and if you like try to like get in or whatever, they look at you weird because there's all this like superstition stuff, that's in those places. They don't like new people or whatever. And both times they were like, and as it is, like, when I go out, I have like big fucking aviator glasses on, plus the mask. I can like barely fucking see because of like the fog in my glasses. Yes. And so, and then as it is, everybody else is like wearing the mask, and there were just like people like hanging out by the machines, giving me a look like, not today, bro. Like, come on, this is my day. This is my day. I'm gonna stand here for 3 hours, and they were just literally like feeding the machines money, and then they would get one ticket, they'd scratch it, they'd push it against the machine, scratch it off, then scan it because that has the scanner in the machine, and then get the credits back. These
are the guys that don't even
push it again.
These are the guys that just scratch the barcode. They don't even.
Exactly.
They don't even do the game.
Yeah, they don't do the game. They just you buy a random ticket, scratch the thing, scan it to see if you hit. If you hit a little bit, you buy another ticket, and you just stand there all day until you've lost like $200 or whatever.
Do you really think that that's like what it is? I mean,
100%.
Yeah.
100%. I mean, like serious gambling addicts like lose most of their money. And occasionally, there are a few people who are like really rich who are like gambling addicts, and they tend to, they'll go to like actual casinos and they'll play like big games and stuff, and they'll always end up losing money, but they have so much money from whatever other enterprise or business they own or whatever the fuck it is, money they've inherited, that it doesn't matter. But there are like a lot of, really desperately poor people who have serious gambling habits. I know in like Las Vegas, there's like that whole like kind of suburb out of Las Vegas. There are like people who have moved into those suburbs to be closer to the casinos because they, typically people like in their retirement, somebody who might have like a 401k or some kind of nest egg retirement and basically just gambles it all away in a short amount of time, and they just move. Just move and they go and they'll play like quarter slots literally all day long. And of course, at a casino or whatever, the casino is designed to like be nice and encourage those people. So then, those people will get certain, and the more money they spend, of course, the nicer it is. Like if you're a super rich high roller guy, you have like a contact there who always like meets you. He gets you. They give you the suite for free. They hook you up with party.
And then one day you smuggle a bunch of AR-15s into the Mandalay Bay.
Right.
Okay,
yeah,
all right.
Right, exactly.
I'm just saying, he's one of those guys. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. No.
You're right.
Sure.
You're right.
I mean, it's a very, and then the other version of that is like the little old ladies going and playing their like kids' inheritance away, and they just know that everybody's nice to them at the casino, and it's like it is a weird replacement for what used to be like civic engagement.
Yes.
Like, it used to be like, dude, you'd have like a Rotary Club or like the VFW hall, and you'd go, or church, and you'd like go there, and that would be your like little community of people you talk to. Now that's all been fucking decimated by neoliberalism, instead, you take the like $30,000 you're supposed to live off of for the next 10 years of your waning life, and you play it in some machine that's called like Cowboy Shoot 'em, and really hope that you get 3 hobby horses in a row or whatever, so you can make like $10.
Oh God, that's.
But I mean, that's not me. I want to be absolutely clear. That is 100%.
I'm pretty sure, actually,
No.
now that I think about it, that I've played on The Apprentice, like Donald Trump, like quarter slots.
Oh, nice.
I'm pretty sure there's The Apprentice themed something.
Oh, let's check.
They've got weird themes for everything.
Let's check the list of things that are named after Donald Trump, and see if there's a slot machine.
Yeah, we'll check the list.
Let me just run it through my numbers here. I don't see one.
Son of a bitch.
Very unfortunate. Incomplete list. All right, let's edit it. Let's edit the
like, oh shit, there it is. No, I actually see it. I looked up The Apprentice slot machine.
Excuse me.
And there's pictures of it.
Oh, nice, nice.
I've definitely, because I went to the the Trump Taj Mahal in Atlantic City several years ago, 6 or 7 years ago, and I probably played it there. I definitely remember because it would go like, "You're fired, you're fired." Like, shit
If you
like
lose.
that.
No.
Oh, that's so dark. That's so fucking dark.
This is gonna be our episode art.
Oh my god. Oh god.
Oh, there he is playing it. Oh man.
Fuck. God, this is bleak.
This is gonna be like this is the picture of him like cutting the ribbon at the Trump Presidential Library, and it's just like
It's just slot
it's an
machines.
arcade of The Apprentice slot machine.
Oh God.
Ugh.
We're ending it here. I can't handle this. This is so bleak. This is so bleak.
And if you like the mega jackpot you could possibly get is like one of the Trump beat COVID coins.
Oh no. No.
But it's like it's like with a blue ribbon, like the Congressional Medal of Honor, and you get to wear it around, and then you get like half off at the buffet, and they sing like a song when you go to the buffet.
Oh God.
Or they all just start calling you Trump. You get to be Trump for a day, and everybody goes Trump, 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 and they haul you in on their shoulders into the fucking buffet.
Oh God.
And then you die. And then you die of a heart attack in the buffet.
No.
Or they give you COVID.
No. All right. Goodbye.
And they just inject COVID into you.
Goodbye.
And they say, "Congratulations. You're going to Valhalla."
Thank you, sir.
Stay cool.
Take it easy.
Even if I ran out of speed, boy, I wouldn't sleep a minute